Green Party parliamentary leader Elizabeth May. She joins us now. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks, Marella.
Where do you land on this? Does Bill Morneau need to resign?
Where I land on it is, first of all, I was in Finance Committee by Zoom when he testified, and it's just simply astonishing that he didn't know the conflict of interest rules. So there's not any gray zone here. When you, as a member of Parliament, accept any gift, and by the way, the legal limit for a gift that you must report it is if it's worth more than $200, and you must report it within 60 days. So forgetting about $41,000 for 3 years isn't borderline. It's a really large ethical breach. The strange thing here is, of course, that and this is something that's really hard for hardworking Canadians to quite understand, is how someone, and I do think this is the case, that he was actually blind to the offense, blind due to wealth. It's not a defense, it's not an excuse, but it's very clear that he and his wife come from vast wealth, and I believe that they literally didn't notice $41,000 that they should have reported. So I do think that the contrition is real, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to save his career.
Okay, $41,000. But on top of that, we also learned there were two $50,000 donations made. And I want you to weigh in on whether you think that's egregious.
No, I mean, donations to charity are not egregious. The questions that are being raised now, I mean, there's so many layers of questions, Marilla. There's the ethical breaches of both the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance in not recusing themselves because they clearly had close family and personal connections to the We Charity. Then there's the bigger, I think, really large questions about We Charity and its charitable status. What is it doing as layer after layer is pulled back on the operations of this charity? It's not a charity in the way that a lot of us expected, in that it has vast real estate holdings, that it has a for-profit wing that was apparently initially created to create money for the charity, but suddenly at different points the charity was giving money to the for-profit side. This is clearly going to require a lot more investigation. And then we come to the issue that brought this front and center. What are we going to do for young people? This right now, we're getting late July. There's still people waiting for the jobs and the projects that were announced and are now gone. I'd like us to focus on what we do for young people through what remains of the summer and expand the Canada Student Jobs Program so that those jobs go to students. The ethical scandal, though, is not going to go away. I just hope it doesn't become so partisan that we forget about the young people.
Okay, let's talk about the Prime Minister. We know he will testify before that committee. We don't know when. What are the questions you have for him?
Well, again, we have now heard from senior members of the Federal Civil Service. They take responsibility for saying the project could only be done by the We Charity. I think we need to know from the Prime Minister who thought up the project that only fits the We Charity. Who decided that we wanted to have a program to encourage young people to quote unquote volunteer, but they'd somehow get paid for it and get paid less than minimum wage. And so the more that the Prime Minister can shed light on where did this idea come from? Was it an idea that was cooked up such that only the We Charity could possibly fit the requirements for the kind of social media profile, the kind of links to many, many schools? What would you do differently, What would you do differently, Prime Minister, knowing that your mother was actually, and I've got to be, I think Margaret Trudeau's a wonderful human being. But there was a lot of money accepted for speaking invitations at the We Charity that should have been disclosed, and they all should have known that this would certainly appear to be a conflict of interest that runs in many different directions. The Prime Minister's brother accepting speaking invitations and taking pay for those, the Prime Minister's mother in speaking invitations and taking pay for those. These are the sorts of things that actually, the question that comes to my mind all the time is, where were the people around them, advisors and chiefs of staff and so on, who should have been looking at this and saying, uh-oh, there's a very high public profile identifying Justin Trudeau on stage with the Kielburger brothers at big rallies for young people. Is that going to create the kind of impression that Canadians ask these questions of, was the We charity the right one to take a $900 million contribution agreement to deliver this program? I think the answer is overwhelmingly no. But we also, as a person in politics, Marilyn, this is always a hard thing for me. I don't want to be too political about this. We're still in a pandemic. We have to be nonpartisan in the way we approach it. But there has to be accountability. And somewhere between resignations and heads rolling, we have to figure out, where is the public interest in serving the public in a pandemic? How can we focus on that when a scandal like this is getting in our way?
Yeah, and there are a lot of students, as you mentioned, waiting
Yeah.
for this money to flow. Elizabeth May, thanks for your time today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.